Greetings, brothers and sisters. I have a lot to get to, something that's really prophetic, something I haven't talked about before. And just there's been a new phase, right? We've entered into a new phase where it's no longer about symbolism and predictive programming and what might happen, but things are really happening now, right? I think most people see that. I'll talk about this more in just a moment. So I got a bunch of things to get to, some movie trailers, some things that are out there now. But let's start here first with Cruella. I've been covering this, how Disney is now trying to make their villains heroes. I mean, not trying to, that's what they're doing in their movies. They're reversing the narrative and the stories. And so I should say, spoiler alert, I don't imagine why anybody should watch this movie. But this is the defining narrative of the Cruella movie, why they made the movie. You remember from Maleficent, she had a boyfriend who cut off her wings and became king. And they attributed that scene to abuse of, the R word, right? For little kids, like it was a metaphor for R. And, was the sympathy aspect, the victim consciousness aspect of the Maleficent character, right? They have some precipitating event which made Maleficent turn into a villain, and then once you knew about that, you had sympathy for the devil, right, or Baphomet in that case. And this is the sympathy moment for Cruella. These Dalmatians are going to kill her mom, but it isn't really her mom, because the woman who kills this woman she thinks is her mom is her real mom. Because those things happen, like, in Star Wars, where Darth Vader's Luke Skywalker's father. So I don't know what kind of music that is for kids to listen to, but this is Maleficent. I'm sorry, this is Cruella de Vil as a young person named Estella, and she is looking at her mom and her, who she thinks is her mom, and Dalmatians have been summoned to push her adoptive mother over the cliff, who she thinks is her mom. And she's, this music that they're playing in the background. And apparently her adoptive mom, saw her being cruel and said, "Your name is Estella, not Cruella." And that's how she got her other name. But you can see here that everything's being inverted. Cruella is looking at this scene upside down. And so, there's inversion in Satanism, inverted crosses, turning the divine world upside down. Of course, it's Cruella Devil. And so there's that. And this, where her good mom gets murdered, and she then forms a relationship with her bad mom. She doesn't know it yet, but it comes out later, apparently, in the movie. And so this is her path to evil, which is being celebrated in this kids' movie. Note the checkerboard squares here, right? There's a checkerboard floor in every Freemasonic lodge. And you can see here on the side, you can see the checkerboards where the dogs, Dalmatians, which are black and white dogs. Cruella has black and white hair, right? White on one side, black on the other. So these are all references to Freemasons. And you see here, she tumbles down the hill. She's lying on the ground with a puppy. And these demon Dalmatian dogs jump up, and, there's lightning, and then she goes inverted, and then they come running at her mom, who is standing by the cliff. And there's the trauma, because, in so many of these kids' movies, and like Star Wars, for example, it's about orphans, it's about, Peter Pan. I mean, all these movies, there's so many of them. And so many kids' movies, Finding Nemo, where there's a death of a parent or a death of both parents. And so this is the trauma. But in this case, she's, this is where she becomes her path towards being a villain and a Satanist, right? She's got the black and white Freemasonic hair, and she just watched her mother be killed by these Dalmatians, right? Which is, central to her character. So later on in the movie, or the rest of the movie, she goes to work for this character called the Baroness, played by Emma Thompson, who, the Baroness is worse than Cruella. Like, they always have to do this, right? She's a villain, but this is why she became a villain. She had this trauma. So she dyes her hair red, and she goes to work for the Baroness, but also acts out as Cruella. And so she's the, combination of these two personas, where she has her black and white hair when she has her, when she's in her power, right? Estella is weak and, a victim and, being abused by her boss. But Cruella is, an empowered woman. And in this scene, the Baroness is going to push Cruella off the cliff, but she has designed a parachute dress. So she's, going to survive this, but it's going to be the end of the Baroness, which is, the beginning of Cruella.
I love it. Idiot.
So she manipulates her mom, her evil mom, who killed her good mom with Dalmatians pushing her good mom off a cliff. She manipulates her bad mom into pushing her off a cliff. So her bad mom will go to jail, which is what ends up happening. Which, this again is for kids, right? It's a kids movie.
She tried to drag me with her. She jumped.
She said she jumped 3 times, which is important here. 3 times is always, you hear it on all 3 levels of your subconscious, your various levels of your cognitive functioning. If you hear something 3 times, so 3 times is, important. That's why I often say things 3 times or show things 3 times. But she said she jumped. And she's jumping here into evil. Like, she then, ceases to be Estella, which you're going to see in a second, and she becomes Cruella for the rest of her life. So this is their transformation into a devil-worshipping evil villain.
So I told you I died. Estella, that is.
So this is so many things where, in mind control and things like this, where there's a, this split and the schism of a personality, right? This is 2021, the year of the schism. And so the division within a person's inner world and a split or fragmentation of their personality. And in this case, the dark side winning over, right? The death of the good Estella and the birth of the evil Cruella. I mean, there's just so much here, right? And this is very, prevalent in what's going on in the world right now. The death of the good and the birth of the evil.
Poor thing. She couldn't even get anyone to come to her own funeral.
So in the world of feminism, being a Cruella, being a Maleficent, being a woman who has, gone through trauma and comes out empowered, aggressive, right? The sort of like the Kali, the Hindu god Kali, some, empowered woman who has gone to the dark side and is aggressive and hostile and warlike, right? Poor Estella was weak and meek and, all these things, was trampled on. And when she dies and she can't get anybody to go to her funeral, but Cruella demands your attention, right? It's the empowered feminist women. And the Dalmatians, I didn't see the movie, but from my understanding, the Dalmatians were presented as these demon dogs, throughout the movie, which is a complete, reversal of the 101 Dalmatians. But here they are, tamed and pacified.
That seemed like an unhappy ending. Murdered tragically.
By her very own mother.
Lots of symbolism here, right? She has a good mom and a bad mom. Her bad mom murders her good mom. Her bad mom abandons her, right? And the good mom gets murdered, and the daughter grows up to set up her her bad mom, right? Put her bad mom in jail, and then take her bad mom's stuff, inherit all her bad mom's stuff, which is coming, and then take over that evil, devil-worshipping mantle.
Estella willed her fortune to her dear friend, Cruella de Vil.
So it's right in your face, right? Cruella, this is a kid's movie, Cruella Devil, right? Cruel Devil. The hero and protagonist of this movie in 2021 is a cruel devil, and it is a woman, right? This is where, like the schism part, which I've talked a year of the schism, her hair is black and white, right? Everything about this, the two personas, and then her transforming into Cruella Devil, and this is being celebrated. This is the difference between, everything that's happened since 2020, where it's just right in your face. They're not like, hiding things, right? And they're putting the devil out there. And this car, they're calling it the DeVille, but we know, right? And they even say it here.
Can't you idiots see that Estella person? It's a trick. She's really Cruella.
Can't you idiots see, right? I mean, that's, literally talking to the audience. Can't you idiots see that this is a movie about cruel devil, right? Can't you idiots see? You can't see, right, that you've been tricked into rooting for the devil, because that's what's happening, right? We were watching the movie. She's the villain. The Baroness is the villain. And Cruella de Vil is the hero. Cruel Devil is the hero. And you're rooting for and cheering on Cruel Devil. That's what happens in movies, right? You root for somebody to win. You're waiting for, you knew it was going to happen, that this Baroness was going to be beaten by Cruella. Like, you knew already going into the movie, and, during the movie, you're waiting for it to happen. You're satisfied. Oh, Cruel Devil has won, right? Like, this is how kids would be watching this movie. Waiting, this is the end of the movie where the villain's punished and the hero wins. The villain is defeated. In this case, the hero is Cruel Devil.
Cruella de Vil.
It's spelled devil, but it's pronounced DeVille.
It's spelled devil, but it's pronounced DeVille. Okay, that's completely different. I can see where calling it DeVille is not about the devil at all. They're acknowledging this here, right?
The good thing about evil people is you can always trust them to do something, well, evil.
So she takes over her mother's house, her evil mother's house, and, her belongings, and she gets the Dalmatians. Now, remember, this is a Disney movie for kids, right? It's important. And the original Cruella character, Cruella Devil character, was a evil woman who wanted to kill Dalmatian puppies, wanted to kill puppies and take their fur to make it into a coat, right? Like her whole life revolved around killing Dalmatian puppies. She's a puppy killer. Like there's nothing worse than a puppy killer. Somehow Disney has taken this character, like they did with Maleficent, another evil character, that put a curse on a baby, right? That cursed a baby. And so, you have these really evil characters that you can't explain away they're evil. But they've done this by giving them past trauma, making them victims, and then celebrating their empowerment as powerful women. This is what Disney's done. And, Baphomet, Maleficent is clearly Baphomet, and Cruella de Vil is the cruel devil. And so they've, gotten away from the puppy killer aspect of this thing. Apparently she inherits the dogs, and she has a couple of friends. In the 101 Dalmatians movie, there is a man and a woman that each have a Dalmatian. I think this is how it works. And they come together, and their Dalmatians meet, and the Dalmatians have puppies, and then there's all these, a puppy mill where she has all these puppies that she's about to kill and take their fur, and they get all these Dalmatians. Well, those two puppies, those two original Dalmatians, the dogs that she inherits in Cruella de Vil, the origin story, have puppies, and she gives each one of them a puppy to her friend, a female puppy to her female friend, a male puppy to her male friend, and then later they're going to become the couple, the Dalmatian couple that has the original Dalmatian puppies. And so they're trying to make it seem like she was good after all, right? But she's a puppy killer, like, and they've reversed it so kids are rooting for this puppy killer who transforms into a cruel devil. And this is just, how it is at Disney in 2021. So I'll get to this epic JoJo comment in a second. And then so much more stuff, couple other trailers. But first, Cruella sequel in early development, right? So Cruel Devil is getting a sequel, Disney. So JoJo Magoo, President JoJo Magoo's at it again.
To sum it up, look, COVID cases are down. COVID deaths are up. To sum it up, look, COVID cases are down. COVID deaths are up. To sum it up, look, COVID cases are down. COVID deaths are up.
Wait, what now? COVID cases are down, but COVID deaths are up? Like, what? I don't think that's what you're supposed to say there, Magoo. Like, I think you Magooed it. Magoo, did you Magoo it? What happened, Magoo? And so, COVID cases are down. COVID deaths are up. That's good for Magoo. Another classic Magoo comment. So let me take you back to a happier time when JoJo used to meet with people and talk to them and challenge them to push-up contests. This is an older Gaff, but it's going to come into place because of a meme. It's coming back around because of a meme.
I was a Democratic caucus. You ever been to a caucus? No, you haven't. You're a lying dog-faced pony soldier. You said you were, but you're not.
She's a lying dog-faced pony soldier. Well, what is that? I always wondered, what's a lying dog-faced pony soldier? Just in case you've never seen one, what a lying dog-faced pony soldier looks like. It looks a lot like Fauci. They look very similar to Fauci. And so not really all that similar to Fauci, but, I guess a little bit of resemblance. JoJo's eyesight isn't as good as it used to be. So maybe he's misidentifying this alleged lying dog-faced pony soldier. And so then there's this meme. Fauci now recommends face masks over your eyes so you can't read his leaked emails. Kablowy, right? I'm going to miss memes. Like, that's when it all goes south, one of the things I'm going to miss is memes. They're just a recent thing, but they're, they make your life a little bit better. So the next meme has to do with Elon Musk. Bitcoin tumbles following Elon Musk's cryptic tweets. Elon Musk is official tweeter. Bitcoin, #Bitcoin with a broken heart. And so I know I said it would be over between us if you quoted another Linkin Park song, but I've found someone else. So in the end, it didn't matter. And he posted this in regards to Bitcoin. And so what Elon Musk did was he incorporated Bitcoin. You could buy one of his Teslas or one of his cars with Bitcoin, and Bitcoin soared. And then he said that, here's another one, I miss you. This is, it's supposed to be Bitcoin. And so Bitcoin has plummeted since he stopped using Bitcoin. He said the reason he stopped using it, he didn't like it, was it takes too much energy to mine. And also Tesla bought so much Bitcoin, they bought a lot of Bitcoin, and now they're dumping it, which is sending the price downward. And he was saying it was about the energy usage to mine Bitcoin. Other cryptocurrencies, it doesn't take as much energy to mine. And so he's getting rid of, so he's no longer allowing people to buy Teslas with Bitcoin. And Bitcoin people are really mad at Elon Musk. He's a guy who also said his stock was valued too high and his stock plummeted. So he's, he's a weird dude. And from that came this meme. won't accept Bitcoin because of its energy usage, accepts currency that is literally called the petrodollar. And so the internet is turning on Elon Musk for a variety of reasons, and this is one of them. There's a movie called Infinite, or a TV show, I don't know which, on Paramount Plus. It's hard to tell the difference nowadays. And it has to do with past lives, but in a goofy way.
We call ourselves the Infinite. We remember skills from all our past lives. It takes 10,000 hours to master.
Another thing where they're inverted.
Their memories.
You're talking about reincarnation.
You're talking about reincarnation. And so this is the worst way to talk about past lives and reincarnation. That, people would have the ability to remember their skills, their violent skills from previous existences, and that's not the point, right? The point of past lives or future lives or multiple lives is to, work your way back to God, which I'll talk about more at the end of this video. But it's about, it isn't about improving yourself materially. I mean, you can, right? You're going to become more, sophisticated maybe, or more, adapted to life as a human being, less animalistic and things like this. But not about having like superpowers, I can remember all my past lives and now I'm, a multifaceted person with all these skills. It's not the point. And so I have one more partial trailer to get to that's important. But Facebook suspend Donald Trump's account for 2 years, will reassess risk. And so one of the things to recognize that Joe Biden has a lot more power as president, or he appears to have a lot more power as president than Trump did. And the reason is because he's doing the bidding of the so-called controllers, right? Trump looked very powerless, especially at the end of his presidency. Like they just disempowered him. Even so much so, they've deplatformed him. Being deplatformed, I mean, you don't even, unless Trump goes and does an interview at some obscure right-wing news station, you don't even hear from Trump actually, right? Trump has been disappeared because the mainstream media isn't covering him, and he doesn't have access to social media, and the search engines and everything else are gearing away from him. Like he's being erased, and he's a former president. And, what it shows you is that the presidents don't really have any power. The only way they have power is when they agree with what the controllers want them to do. And then it looks like they have a lot of power. But when they try to do their own thing, when they disagree with the controllers, it's shown that they have no power, and they're basically disappeared. I mean, you can see it. Like, this is what's happened to Trump, right? A 2-year ban on Facebook, and then they'll reassess his risk, right? Like, just think about that. Like, they're deciding, I mean, this is something where they're just getting rid of somebody, erasing a former president. So, this is a new movie that's being pimped out there all over the place by, or maybe a TV show, I don't know. I don't know. From Netflix, here's the trailer. It's called Sweet Tooth.
Once upon a time, bad people ruled the earth.
So this is a dude in the future, right? The guy from the Last Man on Earth show, saying that at one time in the past, which is now, bad people ran the earth, which, we know.
They were greedy and self-destructive.
And their helicopters blew up. They're greedy and self-destructive.
So nature made everyone sick.
Was it nature or was it a genetically modified disease? Because they're all wearing masks and they're burning down houses.
And then a miracle happened.
There's a bunch of miracles in here.
They called them hybrids.
Exactly what we need is to make human beings more animalistic. We need to be more like animals. That's the problem. We're not enough like animals. And it's interesting because one of my friends on Facebook, my wife sent me this trailer yesterday. And then one of my friends on Facebook sent me this. China, U.S. scientists create world's first monkey chimera. It should be chimera, but it's chimera embryo amid ethical storm. So the U.S. and China have put aside their differences, right, and working together to create a genetically modified hybrid of part human and part monkey, which is, illegal internationally. And so that's happened, right? We know they've been doing this, spider goats and stuff, but doing it with people is taken to a whole nother level. So you have a movie about the future, which involves a disease that wipes out, people, right? And then these, somehow, these hybrids are born, and it's all just one big coinkydink. And so there are big doings going on, on planet Earth. That's not what's important. What's important about what's happening right now, in terms of you and me and, everybody else, right? All of us together, individually, is that we have to be willing to change. I mean, that's what's going to separate the people, or more importantly, the souls, the egos, the subtle bodies, our spiritual essences. The people and the souls that are willing to change are going to be allowed to participate in the next phase of human life on planet Earth. I mean, that's the big difference, is your willingness to change and adapt into something else. Because, in the Whispers of the Brighter World, the second master of the Heartfulness system said that there was going to be a spiritual transformation, and because of that, there would be a genetic transformation in human beings, right? That people would evolve spiritually and mutate in a physical level to adapt to that spiritual evolution. And so people who, rise up to a higher level of spirituality and a higher level of consciousness have to also adapt on a material level, on a genetic level, because your spiritual evolution won't be able to be expressed in the type of physical body you have now. So if you look at these last two movies, I mean, Cruella is Cruella, but if you look at these last two movies that I showed you, one is about past lives and reincarnation, but instead of making it about evolving spiritually, because the reincarnation model, like, it's either true or it's not, right? Doesn't matter whether, the Bible doesn't say it, because Jesus actually did talk about reincarnation. He talked about who he was in past lives, but that was edited out of the Bible. And so it's something Jesus believed in. But what really matters is whether it's true or not. Does your soul incarnate into something else, into another human being? And it definitely goes to another place, right? Your soul is eternal. Your soul was created at the beginning of time and won't die until the end of time. Your soul, lives for quadrillions of years. As long as there is a physical creation, a universe, then your soul exists in it. Unless, you do something like really bad and your soul's erased, and that's in extreme circumstances. Like, that's happened, but it only happens in extreme circumstances. In most cases, I mean, your soul is designed to be eternal, right? It's something that's eternal. But your life is finite. Your life is, in some of the past yugas, there was different types of people here that lived for thousands of years, right? There was a whole different race of human beings that were, long-lived. But human beings have a very short lifespan. We were designed to have a very short lifespan because we're genetically modified slaves. This model of human beings. And if you are a soul that's had multiple past lives, you at once inhabited a body that lived, hundreds or thousands of years. And so now it's your soul. It's more difficult to come into a body that's so short-lived. I've talked about, you think about the time that you're 20 to the time that you're 40, and that's when you're getting your career going. That's when you're having your kids and starting your family. That's when you're doing the bulk of your contribution to the system and everything else, right? And then as you turn into your 50s and 60s, you're on a pathway where you're preparing to die, obviously, 70s, 80s, 70s, 80s, and 90s. you have a very short life. And the problem with that is the four major components of your life. That's when you get into a relationship with another person, a love relationship, and have kids. Those are like two different things, right? Those happen at the same time while you're having your career, where your life's work is at its, peak. And that's when you're supposed to be starting your spiritual journey. And that's when you have all this life energy. And so then you hit 40, your career is, you're maybe in an upper level of your career, and you're still busy at work. Your kids are still, whatever they are, you're still dealing with them and raising them and, helping them become adults. And now maybe you're even divorced because of the stress. Like, you're doing all these hard things at once, right? Whereas, like, what if you did your life's work for 100 years? And then you had kids, and you did that for the next, 30 or 40 years, at least in terms of raising them. And then even before that, you meet your partner, your spouse, whatever, And so you're together for a little bit of time before doing all these things at once. And then you have maybe some hundreds of years to focus on your spiritual journey. Like, you have, long chunks of time to focus on all these very important things, right? But they're all bunched together. And so you hit 40 years old, and now you're in the back half of your life. You're having, physical issues, maybe even going through divorce. So that's like you're restarting your life to some extent, maybe switching careers, and you don't really have time to do like spiritual life and think about God and meditate. And then you get older, and then you're supposed to be spiritual, but you haven't done anything to build the foundational blocks to have a spiritual life. So that's one of the problems with modern human existence. And so there are times where, some of us were living on planet Earth, and there were human beings. We were in a body that lived for thousands of years or hundreds of years, and it was just a lot different. But now everything's so rushed because it's a inferior model that's prone to aggressive behaviors, that's prone to mental illnesses and physical illnesses, and we don't have a good genetic model. And so to move past that, there is evolutionary DNA, junk DNA that's there. It's like dormant, that can be activated to bring us to a higher level of human expression, where our spiritual evolution and our divinity can shine out of us, and then we can be completely different on a higher level of existence. And that's something that is talked about quite often in the heartfulness system, that's what the system does. One of the things that the system is going to do. Babaji even said this to Daji, Kamlesh Patel, the current master of the system, when he met Daji when he was like 18 or 19 years old. Babaji was at the end of his life, and he mentioned about this, this genetic modification. And so if you think about, reincarnation, and again, like everything that happens on planet Earth, you have to graduate things, right? You have to master things. So why wouldn't that also be for your human experiences as well? Like, wouldn't you have to reach a certain level to go to the next level? Like, wouldn't you have to succeed as a human being so you can be free? Like, just like everything else, you try again, you fail, you go back, you try again. You have these tests. And if you don't pass the tests, you go back and you redo the grade, right? You redo second grade or third grade, right? You stay back until you've completed the task. And very few people are solving or have solved the equation of human life. And so they have to come back and do it again. We all have to come back and do it again and again until we're able to free ourselves from our earthly bondage, and then our soul goes to the next level. Our soul goes to the next level of spiritual evolution, right? We pass this test, the test of human life. So it's interesting they have this movie called The Infinites, who are, their past lives are there to enhance their superhero abilities in future lives. They pass on their materialistic skills, in this case, for killing and war and spying and like stupid shit, right? And so there's that. But also you have this movie called, Antlerhead. What is it called? It's called Sweet Tooth. And it's about humans merging with animals. Just think about that, right? we're supposed to be evolving to a higher level of spiritual evolution, and they're pitching this idea of combining monkey DNA with human DNA. Like that's taking a human being and making them less than, right? It's pulling a monkey up to a higher level of genetic functioning, but it's pulling a human being down instead of rising up to a higher level of spiritual evolution. And as I was saying at the beginning of this video, things are getting more and more real. Where I used to cover a lot of videos where there was symbology. I mean, I did that a little bit with Cruella in the beginning of this video, but I would have made a much longer video just about Cruella and the symbology behind it. But right now, it's not about symbols. It's not about predictive programming. It's about things that are actionable, things that are being done by the people who control the system because they know that things are changing and they want to control the change and they can't, but they're going to try anyway because what else are they going to do, right? Like what they do is control things. And so they're going to try to, own the changes that are coming, but they're doing it in stupid ways and on a material level. And they're going to be disempowered. Just like I was talking about Trump, right? That when Trump started to go against the people that control the system, or at least he wasn't cooperating 100% with them, that he lost his power as president. Because he only had power, the only power he had was to rubber stamp what his handlers and controllers wanted him to do. And then they disappeared him, right? And so he might be popular with a number of people, but that's his only power. And really it isn't much of anything because they don't care so much about what people think anymore. The customer isn't always right, and they're just pushing through this agenda whether people like it or not. And so this is similar to the way that the controllers are, because if you're not backed by God, your power will be taken away. Like you can't even live if you're not endorsed by God. If God is not endorsing whatever you're doing, I mean, you have your human lifespan, but if you fail to cooperate, then they just go with somebody else, right? You're pushed aside and, you go in your own way, you go in your own direction, but you're disempowered because you're not doing the bidding of the, divine system. And so that's going to happen to the people who control the system. And so these ideas about reincarnation being about passing on your skills, which it is so not, and that the next evolutionary step is to merge humans with animals, they've got it wrong again. And they're just pitching these inverted ideas, just like the inverted stuff in Cruella. Because the real evolution that's going to happen here, the real spiritual evolution, but also the genetic modification of the human system, the human genome, to bring about a more spiritual person, a person with more compassion and more, who's more service-oriented and all these things, more relaxed, less stressed out, less aggressive, all the things that are plaguing the human race, less selfish and less greedy, less materialistic. And so the spiritual manifestation of a physical human being, a human being that has the genetic code to be a higher developed saintly type person, is the next evolutionary step. And so people who are willing to go along with that, and it's more your soul and your subtle bodies, but you're working towards that now. That's the important thing, that people are willing to change, give up their addictions, give up their, attachment to the system, give up all these things that, that are holding people back, and be willing to adapt and change. Be willing to go through whatever you need to go through. And it's going to be difficult and painful, to some extent, in order to evolve to a higher level of consciousness and a higher level of human expression. And so this is what everyone has to do. And whether you do the heartfulness system or not, you still have to be willing to change, right? Because there's plenty of people who do the system. It's not about being in an organization, because there's people who are willing to change that never heard of heartfulness, but they're connected to this energy and this movement. The heartfulness part is just, a conscious level of participation in the heartfulness meditation and this process of change, but it's something you have to accept and you have to do. So it's not about being a member of the organization. And the organization, it's not, it's barely an organization, but it's about the willingness to change and accept what's happening in the future. It's a choice to cooperate with this plan, that you're willing to, submit to these changes that are going on inside yourself on a spiritual level and even on a genetic level over the next couple of generations of human beings, and that you're willing to participate in this and move forward. And many people aren't. Many people are completely rigid about not giving up anything or not changing or adapting or accepting what needs to happen, accepting that this is a failed system, accepting that it's been negative, had a negative effect on all of us. That we all have to accept that and adapt and change, because that's what's up, right? That's what's happening right now. Like, it's not, you're either with it or you're not. And like, each person has to go inside themselves and see what's happening here. Like, on a deeper level, we've seen what happens when you have a materialistic, capitalistic system based in materialism, disconnected from your soul, disconnected from the divine laws, disconnected from your family and what makes people natural human beings. And you see this massive mental illness and people just being broken and, horrible people and just going against everything and hurting nature, hurting the planet, and just, polluting it, not just with toxic pollution, but electromagnetic pollution and spiritual pollution and all of it. And so, like, we're literally wrecking ourselves and wrecking the planet along with it. And so we have to change. Like, we're not getting it done. We're not being good human beings. Like, everybody can see it to some extent. They can see it in other people, but don't want to see it in themselves. So accepting, the system sucks and that we've, been accustomed to the good things in the system that have, that come with a price, right? On a materialistic level and certainly on a spiritual level, and that the way that we are right now isn't okay, and that we have to rise up to a higher level, and that's going to take some work and effort, and it's going to be painful, and we have to go and connect to God and, face God. Most people are scared of God because they know what they've done, but they don't really want to think about it, right? Most people have formed some sort of psychic or psychological blockade to all the negative things that they've contributed to the world, right? Either through a system that they're supporting, the system doing bad things like the materialistic system of, America and, the rest of the world harvesting resources in a destructive way and, treating nature and, the animal life and other people badly, right? The exploitation of people. And, people don't want to think about where their cell phone comes from, the sweatshops or whatever it might be, or the wars that, keep, all the luxuries and privileges that we have. Like, people talk about privileges, but all Americans have privileges based in our military and the overvaluation of our currency and things like this. And so people don't want to look at those things, right? People don't want to think about, all the negative things that go into their materialistic happiness and the, enjoyment of their lives. And so there's a dark side to all the beautiful buildings and all the wonderful things that we have, right? There's, bad things that are happening to make those things available to all of us. And so people don't want to think about that, right? And so they run away from God and their soul, because of God and their soul are going to say, look what you're doing here. Like, they're not going to allow you to keep on going in the wrong direction. And people want to go in the wrong direction, so they stay away from God and truth and spiritual people. I mean, you see this on a daily basis. People are running away from the truth and what they are. They don't want to, they don't want to know, right? They don't want to, know about the bad side. They just want to indulge and distract themselves. And so, that's something everyone is going to have to do. They're going to have to face themselves. They have to go inside. They're going to have to connect to God. And they're going to have to look at themselves and say, all right, this is what I need to do. This is how I need to improve myself. This is, all these things. I mean, this is a, huge component of the heartfulness system, that you go inside and you see yourself the way you are now, and you also are given an experience through the transmission of what you could be. Like, you're given this divine energy that's available to a human being who has evolved to the highest level of spiritual development. you're given an experience of this transmission in the meditative practice, and you're saying, oh, wow, this is, how I could feel all the time. This is how I would feel if I was, merged back into God, into source, right? When I return to my creator, this is, what you'd feel like. This is the kind of energy that you would exude to the planet and other people. It would pour out of you, this divine loving energy, if you reach your spiritual goal. And so it gives you this incentive to adapt and change and become that, right? Become the best, the most divine expression of yourself, what God wants you to become, the best version of you. And so that's what the heartfulness system delivers to people. But you have to cooperate. And so people all have to realize that they're going to have to change. And the ones that don't won't be allowed back to planet Earth because, they're just going to be disruptive and bring the vibrations and humanity down. People who are willing to go up or go to a higher level, go inside, they're going to be allowed to participate in the future of planet Earth, their souls and their spiritual bodies. And people who are just want to keep things status quo and don't want to change, they're just going to be done. They're going to, have to go somewhere else. Only spirituality will save this world. It's Paul Romano, definitely reporting from the Apocalypse and the Ascension. Everyone have a blessed day and be grateful.